Dust and silence.
The sun rose quietly over the dusty lanes of Ranipur, a forgotten village where time seemed to slow down. In a small hut on the edge of the village, a boy stirred. His name was Arjun. 12 years old, lean and brown like the earth he slept on, Arjun lived alone. His parents had been taken by a fever 3 years ago. Since then, silence had been his only companion. Each morning began the same. Arjun would fetch water from the cracked hand pump near the temple ruins. The villagers rarely spoke to him. He was the boy without a family, and in their eyes, that meant misfortune. But Arjun did not mind. He had his own world, one filled with questions, stars, and the faraway horizon that burned orange every evening. He often spoke to the wind, believing it carried his voice to the gods.
One day, he would whisper, "I'll leave this place. I'll chase that horizon." The Tin Box. In the corner of his hut was a tin box. Inside it were his treasures: an old notebook with half its pages torn, a stub of a pencil, a broken watch that didn't tick, and a rusted key he'd found near the railway tracks. Each item had a story, and he treated them like friends. The notebook was for dreams. He wrote in it every night, sketching machines he imagined or sentences he'd heard from passing travelers. Education is the key, one had said. He had written it 10 times, circling the word key, staring at his rusted one for hours. He didn't go to school, he couldn't afford it, but he watched the village children from a distance, memorizing the lessons they shouted in unison. Hunger and the stars. Meals were not guaranteed. Some days he found wild berries. Other days he slept with an empty stomach. But the nights were always beautiful. He would lie on the roof of his hut and stare at the stars, talking to them. "You burn so bright, far away from all this. Is it peaceful up there? Do you ever feel lonely too?" Sometimes he cried, not loudly, just a silent tear or two. Then he would wipe them, determined not to let the darkness win. A broken radio. One morning, while scavenging near the bus stop, he found a broken radio. The wires hung loose and the antenna was missing, but he carried it home like treasure. For weeks he worked on it, using bits of wire, old batteries, even copper threads pulled from a discarded fan. Then one day, it spoke. Static at first, then a crackling voice reading the news. Arjun jumped with joy. For the first time, the world had spoken back to him. He began learning English words from it, copying them into his notebook. Development, electricity, democracy. Each word was a new seed planted in his mind. The railway line. The railway tracks were 1/2 mile from the village. Arjun often sat there watching the trains pass. They roared like giants, then vanished, leaving dust and wonder behind. He would wave at passengers. Some waved back. Once a lady threw a packet of biscuits from the window. He kept the wrapper in his tin box. One day he noticed a word printed on a passing freight wagon: opportunity. He didn't know what it meant, but he liked the way it sounded. The rainy day plan. During monsoon, the roof leaked and the hut smelled of mud, but Arjun didn't mind. He had a plan. He sketched a blueprint in his notebook. A water filter made of pebbles, sand, and charcoal. He built it using discarded bottles and old cloth. It worked. He drank the filtered water with pride, saying, "If I can do this, I can do more." He started fixing things for the villagers: a broken cycle pedal, a leaking pot, a fused bulb. Slowly they started to notice him, not with love, but with curiosity. The village fair. The fair came once a year, and Arjun saved for months. He sold scrap metal and fixed broken toys for a few coins. At the fair, he didn't buy sweets or toys.
He bought a used dictionary. That night, under a flickering lantern, he read word after word. Aspiration, belief, determination. He practiced their meanings, whispering them like prayers. The letter. One day, he found a letter near the tracks. It was addressed to a boy named Mohan in a town far away. The letter spoke of scholarships, science exhibitions, and competitions. Arjun read it again and again. He felt a stirring in his chest, a mix of envy and hope. He rewrote the letter in his notebook, replacing Mohan with his name. Building the future. Years passed. Arjun grew. He taught himself from discarded textbooks, learned from the radio, and asked rare travelers questions about science and cities. By 16, he had created a small windmill to power a bulb in his hut. By 18, he had written to NGOs using borrowed stamps, requesting support for a village library. One responded. Beyond the horizon. At 19, Arjun boarded a train, not as a watcher, but as a traveler. He left Ranipur with a small bag, his tin box, and a heart full of dreams. He went to a technical institute on a full scholarship. He studied electronics. He worked nights, slept little, and smiled often. By 25, he returned, not to stay, but to build. He installed solar panels on every roof in Ranipur. Children gathered around him, wide-eyed. He gave them notebooks, radios, and words. Dream bigger than this village, he told them. Talk to the stars. They're listening. And then he looked at the horizon, no longer a stranger, but a friend. A friend in the mirror. In the silence of his new room in the city, Arjun often looked into the mirror, not to admire himself, but to remember the boy he once was. That boy with dust on his feet and fire in his heart. Every day he reminded himself, stay curious, stay humble, keep building. Letters to no one. He wrote letters now, not to people, but to the sky. Like prayers, they held his thoughts, hopes, and fears. Dear wind, he once wrote, you were right. You carried my voice farther than I imagined. A visit to the tracks. He revisited the tracks where he had once dreamed. He sat on the same stone, now older, as trains roared past. A boy nearby waved at a coach. Arjun smiled and waved too. He handed the boy a book and whispered, opportunity. The horizon arrives. The horizon no longer seemed far. It was around him, in the projects he built, the smiles he inspired, the hands he lifted. The boy who once whispered to the stars had become one of them, shining quietly from the ground up.